This is the Waupaca School District Board of Education meeting.
Betty, you might have to mute yourself. I think there was some feedback coming through.
Okay.
Thank you.
Since we haven't actually started, and I don't think, oh, it says we're live. Are we streaming?
Yeah.
Oh. Then I won't make a comment about trying to mute Betty. She's wagging her finger at me. Okay, in the interest of time, Sandy may be joining us. We'll have to watch that, but it is 5:15, and once we take roll, based on the people that are in here, I'm sure we will have a quorum. Just start with some very brief comments before the pledge. Want to give my thanks to everybody that has been working on both the strategic plan for the district as well as the 2021 task force, for lack of other term. And what are we calling that, Ron?
Learning 2021
Learning
stakeholders.
2021 stakeholders for their participation in the meetings. All are very greatly appreciated. Their input is very valuable. Also would like to express the board's appreciation to everybody that's worked so diligently over the last roughly month and a half to clean our facilities. It's certainly, with everything going on with the pandemic, something that's very necessary and required, but their participation in doing that for the safety of our students and our staff is greatly appreciated. With that, we'll start with a pledge, and it's difficult to have somebody that's meeting with us virtually to lead it. So Dale is here in person. I'll have him lead.
Oh, great. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dale. With that, I'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with roll call.
Steve Hackett.
He's absent.
Steve is absent today.
Betty Mannion.
Here.
Pat Fair.
Here.
Sandy Robinson.
See, she's here. I don't see her though. There she is.
Sandy, are you on?
She has no volume.
I see her.
Sandy, we're taking roll call. I can see you. You can give us an audible. We'll come back to Sandy.
Dale Felt.
Here.
Steve Johnson.
Here. And Sandy Robinson, can you hear us for roll call?
Yes, I can now.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, we will have an adjustment on the agenda pursuant to some of the emails, and that is under the consent agenda. We will be bringing the extracurricular hires, volunteers, coaches, etc. Up at the next meeting. There was some confusion with the listing on paid versus volunteer / unpaid positions, and we will have that taken care of by the next meeting. With that adjustment, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
So moved.
Motion by Dale, second by Sandy. Roll call.
Betty Mannion.
Aye.
Pat Fair.
Aye.
Mark Kolbinski.
Aye.
Sandy Robinson.
Yes.
Dale Felt.
Yes.
Steve Johnson.
Yes. Thank you very much. With that, we'll move on to the Board meeting norms. We have normally done this on a rotational basis. Dale, would you like to start us out with number 1, please?
Be prepared, stay informed, listen to others, and be open to differing opinions and perspectives. Inquisitive, reflective, and respectful, checking our biases and agendas at the door. We will be thoughtfully and objectively discuss the facts of the situation and not personalize issues or policies.
Thank you. Number 2, Betty.
Ensure open and clear communications and maintain transparency. No surprises.
Thank you. Mark, do you want to take number 3, please?
Yes, I will. Number 3, remain objective, forward-thinking, and open-minded. Respect the opinion of others.
Okay. Number 4, Sandy.
Maintaining professional relationships is key. Know and respect the roles and responsibilities of the board, governing, administration, tactical, and staff operational.
Thank you. Number 5, Pat.
Start on time, end on time, stay on task.
Thank you. Number 6, when a board decision is made, we accept and abide by the decisions both publicly and privately. We accomplish more united than divided. Number 7, Dale, I'll come back to you again.
All righty, honor and protect the expectations of confidentiality of all topics addressed and discussions held in closed sessions.
With that, we'll move on. Thank you, everyone, to the minutes of the June 9th, 2020 regular board meeting. Is there a motion?
I move.
Second.
Motion by Betty, second by Pat. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. June 26th special board meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So move.
Motion by Dale, second by, is that Sandy?
Yes.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to communications. Mr. Sari.
We had one communication this month, a bravo to the Waupaca Middle School, and this is from our American Red Cross. Just a thank you note for the work that they've done and the help they've provided. You want me to move into my report, Steve?
Sure. If you would, please.
Yeah, our Learning 2021 committee, we had our first meeting with our stakeholders last week. Here's Steve. Last week on Thursday, and it was a very fruitful meeting. These meetings run every Thursday from 5 to 6. We had a good turnout with approximately 20 people in attendance, including Heidi Cuff, who is an executive director at Theta Care, and Dr. Dory Happ, who's our district's medical advisor. Approximately another 10 people or so participated virtually. We're working to coordinate a meeting with Dr. Happ, Jed Wolf, the Waupaca County Health Officer, and myself to go through some protocols together. The meeting was recorded, and at some point, either tomorrow or soon, we will be sending that out to our families. Waupaca County, we continue to work collaboratively between all 7 school districts in our county, working along with JED to try to be as consistent as we possibly can regarding all of our learning plans for 2021. A little update on the grant writer. It looks like we've had 9 or 10 applications so far. We're looking at starting interviews on Thursday and then continuing into Friday of this week. So it's our hope that we'll be able to hopefully make a decision and find a successful candidate by the end of this month. A little Waupaca growth team update. As you're aware, Aaron from the city, Kerry from the chamber, and myself have been meeting regularly in regard to what we call a win-win-win between the city, the school district, and our area businesses. Many of you are aware that Aaron has already successfully sold 30 city lots. Some of those are in Swan Park, some are out in that TIF area by Fleet Farm, and others are just in the city itself. And he has secured agreements with developers to complete the construction of houses on these lots between 1 year and 36 months. In addition, we've been continuing our work to market our community and our school district by partnering, as I mentioned in previous reports, the Waupaca Economic Development Corporation and Dave Field, their executive director. This partnership has led us to work also with Bill Zehnert out of Clintonville to market our schools, the city, and our businesses to interested people through social media. Now, Noah Lemke is currently in the process of creating between 45 and 50 short videos. These videos are between 2 and 2.5 minutes in length that will be used to highlight why living and raising a family in Waupaca is what we believe to be terrific. A great place to live, a great place to raise kids, a great place to retire. These videos will show up on people's social media accounts based on their past digital behavior and where their profile fits into what Waupaca has to offer. Get another admittance here, excuse me. The CARES Act, as you're aware, every district is receiving CARES Act dollars. These dollars are to be spent on one-time use in planning for virtual remote learning for students and staff. We're currently budgeting these dollars to cover several one-time expenses that we have because of our current environment. Some of this spending is earmarked for Schoology, that new learning management system we've invested in, hotspots, and of course, additional devices. In addition, we recognize that several of our staff have exhausted their contract days and hours and are still continuing to collaborate with our core team as we continue our planning for the learning in 2021. Out of appreciation for their continued participation and work ethic, we're planning to issue some one-time stipends with the money that'll come from the CARES Act funding. For example, with the loss of our CEC principal, we've asked Katherine Seifert, the CEC lead teacher, to participate in helping with the planning that continues to go on. And she's thinking right now as an administrator during our meetings, taking the place of Carrie as once Carrie's on board, she'll do a little bit of work with Carrie as well. And in the meantime, also working with Matt Vasser, our building and grounds coordinator, with the spacing of desks in the classroom. We anticipate a total of approximately 60 hours of work that Katherine will have invested in this process. In addition, we have 6 administrators who have used up their contract days. They're not 260-day contracts. They're either 220 or 40 or 30. This would be Joe Cervatelli, Jenner, Laura Colbert, John Meyer, John Nursbaumer, and Jody Pankritz, who have used up their contract days and continue to work and meet. We've calculated each of them are investing approximately 220 hours each. So that's a total for that group of 1,300 additional hours that they will have invested. The same is true for our nurses. We calculate over 160 hours above and beyond. Each of them will be investing in this process. So that's for the nurse group, that's 320 total hours. Our tech coaches are also investing their own personal time. We estimate that to be around 60 hours each over the summer. For the 4 tech coaches, that's a total of 240 additional hours. Nobody has asked for any stipends. I just want to make that clear. Nobody has complained. Nobody has blinked an eye. They just willingly continue to work because the work needs to take place. The core team, all of us on the core team, and there are a couple of administrators as well that are on a 260-day contract. We are not looking for any stipends. We work 24/7 just to get the job done. But just for comparison's sake, we've calculated the additional hours that we're investing each week during the summer months, approximately 25 hours each. And this equates to over 300 hours each, a total of 1,500 hours, additional hours this summer. So even though we know that our intended stipends will not cover all the time that our staff is investing into our continued planning process, we believe as employers that it's something to show that we value and we greatly appreciate each of them, their input, their assistance, and their precious time that they're willingly giving. So when I add all of that up, that's a total of 3,420 additional hours of invested time that these valuable part of our planning team are putting in. So I just wanted to give that update, and that's all I have at this point, unless somebody has any questions.
Yeah, Ron, I have a question. This is Pat.
Yeah.
Ron, you mentioned in your report that you're going to be sending out to our families information on the 2021 school year. Was I correct in hearing that?
Yeah, we videotaped or recorded, I should say, the hybrid meeting that we had on Thursday of last week with our stakeholders. And we're going to use that video, Pat, as part of the communication that's going to go out this week. I'm going to, like I do every week, shoot a video. Just going to shoot a quick little video and then embed in that video that recording, and then another document that we call frequently asked questions. So when that gets sent out, Pat, I think this will also get sent out to the board. It'll get sent out to all staff and parents and the board.
Well, that's my comment. I think we as board members need to see all of that documentation as it goes out, preferably actually before it would go out, so that we're well versed. I'm kind of reminded of our norms number 2. I don't want any surprises when people in the grocery store know more about the opening than I do. So, you know, I'm just trying to make sure that we're well informed as things are put forth.
Pat, I will also respond to that. The plan that the task force is working on, the board has seen the basics of it, but yes, the board will definitely be fully apprised prior to communications with parents, students, and community.
Okay, that's great. I just as an aside, I probably bumped into 10 people and who have asked about the starting of school, and all 10 of them already think they have the idea how it's going to go. And I thought, well, I'm glad you know, because we haven't made a decision yet.
Did that surprise you?
No, it doesn't surprise me, because everybody's talking about it everywhere you go. And so.
Well, Pat, you can always send them to me so that I'll know then too. Okay.
What's that?
When they come to you and tell you how it's going to start, send them to me so then I'll know too.
Yeah, that's about it.
Other questions? Okay, next item on the agenda then is Waupaca Parks and Recreation Annual Report. And we have a special guest star with us this evening. How would you like to proceed with this?
Wherever you want me to stand, if I'm hearing good and loud enough, or if I need to move.
Why don't you move where you'll be a little more visible on the camera itself. If you look at the right-hand box, you can see right about where he was. If you're comfortable standing there, we'll bring a chair around, either way.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Kind of weird looking at both, so. Are we good?
We're good. Go ahead.
All right, so I just want to say thank you first off for the opportunity to come and just introduce this annual report and take a few minutes to explain it to you. If you do have questions, I did drop off hard copies here for all of you once we're able to all meet together again. If you have questions at that time, please let me know, because I'm just going to briefly go over this today. So this annual report that you hopefully see on your screen is something new that we wanted to do. We've heard loud and clear the last couple of years that we need to do a better job communicating with our partners, including the school, the townships, and all of our participants. And so we put together this great annual report. If you get a chance to look through it, you'll see we have a lot of diagrams and pictures. So very easy to follow along, very easy to read, and easy to get the information. I didn't want to make it a book, as I am not a very good writer, and we really wanted to just highlight the awesome things that the Park and Rec is doing. So if you look through the table and contents, you can see all the different areas that we have. There's some fiscal information in there for you. It goes through our parks and a lot of the numbers and the different parks we have and the reservations that we have, the different shelters that we offer for reservations. We get into our community events, which is something that we've really pushed hard the last couple of years to add to, both for families and for just everybody in our community. And it also touches on all the partnerships we have that make those happen. There's really only a couple of us in the department, as you can see on that first page. And so a lot of things that we accomplish is with partnerships, with the school, with different businesses. And we're very proud of that. And that's what allows us to get all those community events done. So there's some information on there. We get into our recreation, all the different programs we offer, all the numbers there, and kind of comparing them from year to year so you can see those. We do touch on our adult programs, and then we look at our senior center and cemetery as well. So those are different things that are underneath us. And the senior center really shows how much they give back to the community, how much volunteer time they do, and how many different activities they offer as well. So really everything wrapped up real nice for you. And we will continue to do this each year and share these with the townships, share them with the school district and the school board so that you're able to know what's going on, but also able to ask questions moving forward. So that's the annual report in a nutshell. Hopefully you guys get a chance to look at this soon. And again, feel free to reach out to me at any time, and I will answer any questions for you about what we're doing at the Park and Rec, what we've done at the Park and Rec, and what we're looking forward to in the future as well. And I can help you with that. So as he scrolls through, you can see a lot of how it's set up with a lot of pictures and different facts and figures to kind of show you. So some of them are just fun facts and figures, and some of them really highlight, the different things that we're doing in the parks that we have. So is there any questions right off the bat?
This is excellent. Good report.
Thank you.
Andrew, this is Pat. As long as you've got the podium there, why don't you give us just a little bit of an update as to what's open right now and what kind of programs, especially for children, that are happening that maybe we don't know about?
Sure, yeah. So real briefly, we are offering a few programs that we've come up with to try to keep community members and our participants safe. Those would include like disc golf, where each person has their own disc and they're learning the basics of disc golf. A running group. We're still doing swimming lessons with some different precautions and rules to keep people safe. We're trying to do some virtual stuff. So we did a virtual race as a fundraiser earlier this summer, and now we're going to do a virtual fishing tournament as well. So we're getting some excitement about that. And so those things are all happening here very shortly. We did end up canceling a lot of our major programs throughout the summer. We will look towards the fall and follow the lead somewhat of the school as far as what we're able to offer and the WIA and what they're offering in the fall. So we'll look to make those decisions for that. The parks are open, the beach is open and staffed to make sure that we keep the community members safe. The rec center is open with some stipulations on numbers and certain areas still being closed. Senior center is open with a few things, some essential things and a few exercise classes, but everything that you do there, you have to sign up for. So we know you're coming. There are masks required and different things. We are having some shelter reservations, but we do have a cap on numbers to 350 for those. Yeah, those are some of the things that we're doing and things that are open right now as we try to just provide the community the best that we can in this weird and difficult time.
This is a tremendous asset for our community.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions of Andrew at this point? Okay, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Well, we thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to the next section in the agenda, which is monitoring. We'll start with the school improvement plans, including the AGR reports.
Yep, so every year, at the end of the year, we like to make sure that our community and board is up to date with the work that's been done during the previous school year. And so this is a reminder, our Committed to Excellence Framework, of course, where we have our areas of focus. And so that's really important for us to begin with that, to make sure you see how the work we're doing is related to these 8 areas. Of course, student achievement is impacted by all 8 areas, and so we want to make sure that we're making those connections. And looking beyond the data, I'm going to do a high overview, and then we'll have each principal kind of share out their plans and their reports. So overall, again, we continue to head in the right direction. I believe we're continuing to persist in the right direction due to those areas that we've highlighted with guaranteed and viable curricular documents and that work, target-based assessments, grading and reporting work, and the review of our best instructional practices to ensure that our student achievement continues to go in the right direction. In May, we asked our teachers, with everything that's been going on, where did we go with the school year? How much did we get done with our students? So a couple of things to keep in mind is that I had asked them to tell us what we had gotten through, what learning targets we gotten through prior to March 23rd, what learning targets we got through between March 23rd and June 5th, and also what they did not get through. So we've got some individual documents. We have a large spreadsheet, and this is kind of the results of the large spreadsheet, at least K-8. When you get past, I'm going to say probably that 5th grade range, or get into the 5th grade range where students start to have more options in some of their courses. This data on this sheet is a little bit misleading in some regards, because on the sheet that this information was collected, I listed out all of the targets that a student could possibly be exposed to in each grade. And so, for example, let's just go with 7th grade, it listed out every single co-curricular, or not every single co-curricular, every single elective option that a student would be able to participate in, whether it was health, family consumer science, a technology course, a world language course. And not every student, there wouldn't be a single student that would be in all of those courses. And so that's where some of the learning targets and the numbers look a little bit, I'm going to say, misleading in those regards. And really, again, the point of sharing something like this is to let the board and our community know that despite missing about 30% of face-to-face instruction, as you can see overall, we maintained somewhere between 90 to 95% of what we normally would have gotten through in any other given school year. So I think that bodes to a variety of things. Again, by March 23rd, when we shifted into that virtual learning aspect, we had already completed roughly 70% of the school year. And as our parents and our students can attest to, in the spring, a lot of field trips and sometimes interruptions, that learning happens. So the work of Early Release Wednesdays, before this happened, our staff was working together every Wednesday to be collaborative, to make sure that we had consistency amongst what the learning expectations were from classroom to classroom, grade to grade. And that really helped us begin to form those bonds and those relationships and that focus for when we had to shift into remote learning. And again, like I said here, is the older the student gets, the more options they have, the less accurate this data is at this point in time, because it counts all of the courses, and no student would be in all of the classes. I don't have the high school stuff on here because, again, tracking that for this sort of a quick snapshot wouldn't be really fair to say out, because, again, how many different options a student has, not only in their elective classes, but also their core classes. You'd almost have to do it as a general rule of thumb or case by case. So I know, I think we had talked about this as a team either in May or June, and so I just want to make sure that the board saw this as well as our community.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark. Are there any questions?
So,
okay, before we go on to
I just want to make sure there's more to be had here.
Okay.
I just want to make sure if there are any questions on this particular information, then tell me. So I'm going to move ahead. So again, we know we got great staff in our district, and we're blessed to have our staff.
We're going to make things better in the 2021 school year. Something like the learning management system that's going to assist our teachers in better communicating those learning expectations, activities, and feedback, regardless of where the teaching and learning is happening. We're going to use Schoology whether we're face-to-face or whether we're doing remote. And we need to get back into reestablishing our collaborative learning time for our teachers. That's got to be a goal if we're doing virtual or blended or hybrid, because that time is so important and so supportive to our teachers, especially to our new teachers to our district. And again, as we continue to work towards ensuring that high level of guaranteed viable curriculum and that equity for all kids, and again, support for staff. So next, I'm going to shift over to allowing the principals to kind of give a quick overview of how they did building by building. So let's start with the Learning Center. And John or Jody, I'm going to start with the school improvement plan.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yes, we can, John.
Okay, so the format that we used is very similar or identical to a year ago to report this out. And so at the Waupaca Learning Center, our student learning outcomes, we chose 2 this year. We chose the math learning outcome to be numbers and operations, and we chose the English language arts outcome to be vocabulary. And the SLO is measured in the fall, late September, early October, again in January at the end of the semester, and again in spring, usually late April or May. Obviously, because of learning at home, we did not get to the spring testing. So the report that we're going to show you today is from fall to winter. So the statement that we want to go by the RTI model, and that is 80% of our students are in the universal instruction succeeding, 15% are at tier 2, and 5% are in tier 3. That's the RTI Wisconsin RTI model, where we'd like to see our kids fall into. And we'll show some graphs here shortly to show you what I mean. So again, we picked numbers and operations based on our fall testing and iReady math. Numbers and operations was the area in which the student population at the WLC struggled with the most. And you'll see this when we get to the triangle graphs in a little bit. So what we talked about was what resources do we use in our school, and for our Common Core standards, the resources that we use for our curriculum is Houghton Mifflin math expressions. So that's ultimately the resource that we leaned on when we looked at increasing numbers and operations within the school population. So during the fall scores, you're going to see some low percentages. So tier 1 is at or above grade level. 8% were there. Tier 2, 77%. And tier 3, we had 15% of our student body. The reason that those numbers are low is because we use the end of the year cut scores in the iReady testing. We could have picked beginning of the year, those scores would have been much higher. We chose to go with end of the year, so we were comparing apples and apples when the spring test rolled around. So here's the triangle graph that we're talking about. And if you look at the graph on the right, that's window 1. That's our fall scores. The green line means that students are at or above grade level. And if you look over at the placement by domain, numbers and operations is the lowest that we had. That's why we picked it. The line below, the second line, is where we started off with students at grade level. So if you look at the triangle to the right, you'll see that that green increased from 8% to 27%. Again, that triangles, both of them represent what our end of the year cut scores. So they do look low, but we wanted it that way so we can compare apples and apples again at the end of the year. So we were heading in the right direction. Mark, if you go to the next slide, I think we'll talk about the reading real quick. The reading did the same thing. We looked at vocabulary as they scored. They were the lowest. That was the lowest domain of the 6 in ELA, according to iReady, and that's building wide. That's kindergarten through 4th grade. Again, we looked at what resources we use, and that is Houghton Mifflin Journeys for that. And that was the number 1 resource within our curriculum that we used to support our students to improve in vocabulary. So you'll see we went from 13% to 31% in tier 1 from fall to winter. We went from 73 to 65 in tier 2 from fall to winter, and tier 3, 14% to 4%. So we were moving in the right direction. Tier 2 and tier 3, we want those percentages to be as low as possible, and tier 1, obviously, to be as high as possible. But we were moving in the right direction in both math and reading from fall to winter. And again, we'll look at the triangle. This is your reading. So window 1, Again, the kids in the green were kids that would have been ready to move on to the next grade level. And if you look over to the placement by domain, you can see the green coloring and the yellow coloring. That is the area what we focused on, that domain for the school year. I also want to point out real quick on both of these, if you look at vocab and if you look at the red in that domain, we did improve. The kids who are struggling when they first got to school made some real big gains, and so did the kids that were already at grade level. So we're very happy from fall to winter in both reading and in math. However, we did not meet our goal, obviously, because we were not able to take the spring iReady test. I would like to have seen, I know our staff would have, to see how far we grew from fall to spring. And I'm confident that we would have met our goal had we been able to take that assessment. So we're going to be using iReady in the future. It has a lot of capabilities for us to really see where our kids are at and to break them down by groups so we can actually differentiate our instruction based on the iReady score. So it is a really good tool at the WLC, and we look forward to using it. I will say this, we set goals that are rigorous. So even if we don't meet our goals in the future, understand that we're setting pretty rigorous goals for our kids and our staff. And I think that's the best way going about business is we could set goals that we could reach and report out to you and be happy about that. But we want to really push each other and push our students to become the best academic students they can be. The AGR report is the academic gap reduction report we have to send to the DPI at the end of every school year. It's the same type of reporting as it is when we do our student learning outcomes inside our building. It's just broken down by kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and third grade, because by AGR requirements, we cannot go over 18-to-1 ratio in classrooms. And in kindergarten, first, second, and third, we have an 18-to-1 ratio. The report just breaks it down by individual grade levels. And if you look at the kindergarten, and I won't go through every grade level for time's sake, and you have this in your board packet, but if you look at the fall testing in kindergarten in reading, we had 10 students who are at or above grade level. If you move across to the right, you will see that at the winter time, 4 of those students, or 40%, improved their placement. And it's the same with letter B on the left. 11 students were at early on at grade level. If you move over, you'll see that 7 of those students, or 64% of those students at winter, improved. And so we break that out by each grade level in reading and in math to make sure that students in each one of those categories, they're improving. And if not, we look into why they're not improving. But this is a report that we have to provide to the DPI for those grade levels, both in reading and math.
John, we do have a question from Pat Fair in the chat area. It's students 579 out of 599. What about the 20 that aren't captured?
Some of them may not be taking the test based on IEPs. Some of them might have been absent during that test window. So there's some flexibility inside of that.
Thank you.
So moving right along then to the next, the Chain of Lakes Elementary School. I'm just going to take over that one.
Before you do, I did try to interject a little bit earlier. Sorry to cut you off. We did not state specifically for the record that Steve Hackett did join the meeting. Right around the communications portion of the meeting. So if the record could please reflect that. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So in the absence of Ms. Hare at this point in time, I'm just going to jump in and I'm going to jump right to the AGR report for the Chain of Lakes Elementary School. And again, as Mr. Ersbaumer just reported out, this is a very consistent document. This will be the second time this year you've seen this. And their data for the Chain of Lakes Elementary School is only for kindergarten and first grade. Kindergarten this last year did not take the iReady in the fall. They waited until winter, and they were hoping again to do it in spring to show growth. Obviously, we weren't able to demonstrate that growth because we didn't take it in spring. Whereas you can see in first grade, 34 students were tested in the fall right away, 36 students in the winter, and you can see the growth of students in terms of 2 students in the fall were at or above grade level, that number increased to 10. They're just in a half of a school year essentially. And you can see that information being reported out by reading and math. The next report is the CEC Performance Measures Yearly Review, which I believe was touched on during the CEC Annual Authorizer Report and meeting we had last time. So I don't know if I need to go through this at all, but same format in terms of student growth we're looking for, and did they meet their goals or did they not meet their goals? 80% of the students demonstrated an increase in 21st century skills. 65% of the students increased in 21st century skills with track progress. And so here would be, you know, the continuation of goals. Are there any individual questions? I know this was in the board packets. Okay, so moving right along to the middle school, John or Laura?
Hi there, everybody. I'm really excited to share our SLO that I had a part in writing at the beginning of the school year instead of coming in halfway through. So our goal this year was that we expected 90% of our middle school students to be able to articulate their learning targets. And so we went away from the reading and math and writing goals to focus more on the target-based grading work, because that's the work that we've been focusing on during our PLCs. And it's something that every single teacher is individually focused on to help student learning. The why behind that was written in our Clarity for Learning book that we read as all staff. It creates an effect size of 0.75, which is about equivalent to 2 years growth within a school year. So we were asking students what they were learning, how they were learning it, or why they were learning it, and how they know they've learned it. And those were questions that we continually asked. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see how we were collecting that data. First, with our action plans, we asked our teachers to post, review, and clarify their learning targets throughout the lessons and explain the why to the students. And then we collected data as admin by doing walkthroughs on a monthly basis. So Mr. Meyer and I got into the classrooms, every classroom at least once a month, and we asked at least one student per classroom randomly what the learning. The teachers also gave one class a survey per month. And then we as admin sent out, we actually did an announcement and said, teachers at this time, please survey your entire class with our admin survey. And so we collected data 3 different ways to find out how many students could articulate their learning targets. And the staff development efforts were that we read the Clarity for Learning book. We talked about this during PLC. We supported when needed. We also addressed it in a lot of the PD that we had, and in our staff meetings or during PLCs. And then the required material, we did require that the staff post their learning targets, and then we asked them to really work on getting their success criteria up there as well. And that hyperlink on the success criteria is just some background on the expectations. So our results, we had lots and lots and lots of numbers to look at. And if you look at the table on the left, you can see every month broken down by what the teacher survey looked like, the admin survey, and the admin conferring, with the total being on the right-hand side. So we looked at the data 3 different ways. The first set on the top right is we looked at all the raw numbers, and we had about 86% of students able to articulate their learning targets. When we looked at the purple row of each month, which was the average monthly percentages, we were at 87%. Now, if we looked at all just the percentages in there and not the raw numbers, we got to 90.2. So we kind of cheated to get to our 90% if you think about looking at the data multiple different ways. So if you go to the next slide, we're going to talk about some of that anecdotal thing and why this benefited our students. One of our senior staff members wrote this in her SLO recap in her educator effectiveness. And I just want to highlight those things that are in green. By having this SLO, it brought more clarity to her instruction. prior to this, she had no procedure in place for determining if students understood what was expected of them each day. And it brought about a chance not only in the students, it brought a change not only in the students' expression of what they were learning, but also the depth of their understanding. And students started to really own their learning. So that was a really powerful paragraph that she wrote, and I asked her if I could use that for this board meeting. And then we asked a small sample size of our grades 7 and 8, how they feel about the ownership of their learning. Do you better understand the process of learning? And do you know what you're learning and why you're learning it? And then what the assessments will include. So you can see how those numbers look really positive, especially for the last 2, where it really focuses on that learning target. 16 said yes, 3 said sometimes, and 2 said no. So very positive moves. And we were asking them to compare their learning before target-based grading and then their learning with target-based grading. So the last slide talks about our next steps. We really want to continue with this SLO and speaking with the staff and our ILT. There was very, very positive feedback from this. So we're going to continue to focus on bringing clarity to learning, teaching and learning. We're going to do the same thing with the learning targets, but this year we want to start to incorporate success criteria so we can continue to build upon the Clarity for Learning book and the knowledge that the students can gain through introducing the lesson, reviewing the lesson, and then recapping at the end. And we're really going to focus on some sort of data collection model that we can use if we're in person or online. Because when we went to online, there was a lot of different things that we were trying to focus on, and trying to adapt to creating or to gathering more SLO data just seemed really difficult. So we stopped gathering the data in February instead of all the way through April like we had planned prior.
Great, thank you, Ms. Goldberg.
You're welcome.
Next, the high school.
Thank you. Background information on our SLO development. We have one tool that really we measure off of, and it's going to be the ACT. And as we went through as ILT members, MTSS coaches, and Eric who came in from CISA to help us, we identified that the complex text is one of the areas that we really wanted to focus on. Mainly, one, we showed an area of growth there, but more importantly, we feel that having the students have the ability to read complex text will enhance all other areas within the building. So, thank you. The readiness trend data. If you look at the top of each of those columns where it says English, this is the ACT College and Career Readiness Trend. The benchmark that you're shooting for is a score of 18 for English, 22 for math, 22 for reading, 23 for science, and a composite. Overall, we're trending in the right direction with that information. The areas that are in red indicate where our students are below the state average. And for example, what Mark was circling there was we scored a 30.4 where the state scored 31.5 in the area of math. And that's percent of students that are college and career ready. The next one, please. Here's our trend data that we really focused on. And again, the areas highlighted in red show where our students are behind the states. And we want to focus on this so much that we can help improve them. We have a higher number of students who are scoring below proficient this last year. The number of students who are proficient or above proficient, we were shooting for our SLO was to have 32% of our students, which would be an increase. But we did meet that goal but yet we're still behind the state on our complex text. And so what we did is we came up with the ILT team, the MTSS coaches. Our SLO for the year was to raise it from 29 to 32. Instructional strategies and supports used utilize the LMS and the MTSS coaches to support our teachers. 4 instructional reading articles, 2 per semester. When staff share these articles with students, they focus on the key ideas and details along with craft and structure. We kept the craft and structure more for the ELA because that's more in the writing of it. And key ideas and details were pretty much the rest of the building. And those were components of the complex text that would help the students get to a higher level. The bottom line is the more we have our students read, the better they will become as readers. In summary, the MTS coaches presented instructional strategies and implemented with our staff during multiple in-service dates. The ILT team and MTS coach worked to interpret the data, develop reading lessons, and with the staff and modeling the instructional strategies. The coaches actually went in and worked into classrooms and worked with teachers as they were invited in. And then the teachers within their department shared it. The power behind our goal is that this is I believe our 3rd year. We just finished our 3rd year with complex text being a focus. And the exciting thing about this is that the teachers are now able to, 1, have a bank of strategies to work from, but now they're refining how they're sharing that with our students. And again, we just made the goal and look to continue to build on it. It is my hope that as we look at our trend data for next year, that we will continue to work on our strategies with complex text.
Thank you, Mr. Rowski.
You're welcome. Hey, I just want to make one more thing. I really need to thank Mark and the MTSS coaches for all the time and extra help that they've been given to our high school. We have limited number of tools to use, and they've been very supportive and very helpful. And I want to give a shout out to our teachers who really are digging in and really getting after this reading strategies and working with our students. No one's really ever complained about it. They just want to get better at it so that the students are better. And it's just really one of those cool things to see.
Excellent. Agreed. Any questions with that brief, quick overview of school success stories for the year?
I'd like to make a comment for Mr. Browski. That you guys picked an excellent goal because even with the mathematics, and people might say, well, where does reading go into mathematics? That was always the hardest part for the kids, was reading the mathematics. And so how did that go with the mathematics people? Was that pretty good?
No, they understood and they agree that even though math can be a foreign language, they still need to be able to read and understand the question. So they're very supportive of it.
Great, great. Because I noticed that when I was teaching mathematics, that was the worst part of it for the kids. And that was my focus. So I'm glad to see that that you're doing that. Good job.
Okay, other questions or comments? There being none, we'll move on to the 2019-2020 co-curricular results. Joe, are you available for that?
Yep, can you hear me?
I can.
Thank you. I just put together this document to show our participation numbers for each activity that we had, and then some of our highlights throughout the year. Obviously, this year was a little different with the school facilities being shut down early this year, but for the activities that were able to share with us, some highlights, put those on there. Actually, our FFA was just awarded the top chapter this week, so that didn't even make it on the list because it just happened, but that was a huge award. And then also Jen Erb received recognition as well for her service in FFA and being outstanding, so that was really cool. And I jumped the gun on the June report. I put our goals for the upcoming year on the June report that I gave for the board.
Joe, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
This is Pat. The only numbers that kind of jumped out at me when I was looking through this was the middle school level was girls basketball 6 and 7. Are those numbers correct?
Yeah. Yep. I don't have the comparison in front of me from previous years. That was something that was happening in my previous district as well, that girls middle school basketball numbers were declining. I know we have a lot of interest in our middle school dance program, so that kind of also impacts the number of girls then that would do basketball. We have a lot of kids in there, but unfortunately that is a trend that we're seeing in the state, just lower participation numbers, but hopefully we can get those up from there for sure.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions? Comments? Okay, there being none, we will move on. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is upcoming meetings and other activities. We had rescheduled the Strategic Planning Committee meeting. It is not on the agenda here. That is now scheduled, the one from yesterday to Monday, July 20th at 4 o'clock. The other meetings as shown: July 27th, Strategic Planning Committee; August 3rd, Strategic Planning Committee; August 10th, Strategic Planning Committee; and August 11th, regular board meeting. With that, we'll move on to the Finance Committee. Sandy, are you available to make that report? I've lost my connection for who's in chat and who's on.
Sandy.
She has a comment on a July opportunity.
Oh, okay. I cannot see that from here. For some reason I got.
Go ahead, Sandy.
Sandy?
Something that you wanted to share about a July opportunity. So there must be some kind of a charter school activity going on then.
Sandy, as soon as you can, you would jot that down, and as soon as you have the connectivity to bring whatever that might be to us, we would appreciate it. It looks like you're not muted.
She must have lost her connection.
Okay, if you can hear us, Sandy, we cannot hear you, so you might want to try re-logging in. I will call in. My webcam is not working. Okay, she'll call in. Oh, I got booted out too. could throw either Dale or Mark under the bus and say you were there, so you could potentially
Mark, can
provide
you
the
bring up
report,
that,
but you're not the
the
chair.
committee report itself? Okay, thank you. We had a review of the 2018-2019 annual chain exploration audit. And Megan Sanders presented the Chain Exploration Center Governance Council introduced and presented the draft of the CEC's 1890 audited financial statement. She noted that this audit is one of the requirements for the federal subgrant awarded to CEC and must be publicly posted and presented to the authorizer by no later than June 30th. And I believe that did happen. I remember, I think it got in just then. We also had, what was her name from the auditors? Karen Kerber was there, and she kind of took us through the audit. And Ms. Sanders then turned the review of the audit over to Karen and the CPA of the accounting firm, Kerber Ross. Ms. Kerber went through the audit, the draft in detail. In her orientation to the financial statement, Ms. Kerber explained that the audit follows the financial accounting standards and presentations for a nonprofit organization. The CEC has a 501c3 designation, which are different from the standards that are required by the school district of Waupaca's audit. She indicated that the audit draft is pending final review by and signatures from the CEC Governance Council and District, and that she anticipated there would be a minor changes in the financial statement. Ms. Kerber reviewed documentation that tied to the information provided in the audit. She also compared and contrasted the audited financials for the CEC with the two financial schedules presented in the 2018-19 Charter School Authorization Annual Report that was submitted to the PI in December of 2019. Okay. And it's the first year that the charter school federal subgrantees were required to undergo an external audit. In the future, the CEC audit work will be done at the same time as the school district's audit. And Ms. Sanders noted that the 2019-20 audit is due December 1st, 2020. Okay. So in review of the DPI Charter School Authorization Annual Report, the committee chairperson, Sandra Robertson, presented the school district of Waupaca 1819 Charter School Authorization Annual Report. She noted that a list of statutory regulation required duties for authorizers is provided on page 2 of the report document. She provided an orientation to the report and reflected on the feedback that the DPI school financial auditor, Pender Newman, CPA, offered to Ms. Robinson during a phone call discussion. Ms. Newman indicated that her review was not an assessment of the accuracy of the financial information provided. With that caveat, she said that overall the report was well done. The DPI will be conducting an on-site monitoring visit to the CEC on October 20th, 2020, as required by the federal subgrant. The annual charter school authorization report will serve as evidence for the meeting the authorizer monitoring requirement. In 2019-2020 DPI Charter School Authorization Annual Report, it was Mr. Sari's recommendation that the business manager, Carl Hayek, and business manager assistant, accountant Carol McCuskey, take the lead for the preparation of the financial schedules for that report in 2019-2020. Motion was made by myself and seconded by Sandy to adjourn the meeting at 9:51 p.m. The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you very much. I just saw someone sign in with a phone number. Sandy, is that you?
It is Dale. Steve, and thank you very much, Dale. I am very sorry to be having technology issues right now.
Okay. He represented your committee well. Did you have anything that you wish to add other than what was in the written report?
I just want to express thanks for the collaborative effort that working on the audit for the CEC was. Thanks to Karen Kerber of Kerber Rose for joining the meeting and walking us through not only the results, but the process that was used. It was very informative. Appreciate the work that the business office put into gathering materials together, of course, with the CEC Governance Council and staff gathering materials as well. It was a collaborative effort and a new experience. So thank you to all involved.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. With that, any questions? Now we'll move on to section C, administration. The first item there is a recommendation for hire as the CEC principal / district 4K administrator. Is there a motion?
I move that we go with hiring Kerry Naparella.
Yes.
Sandy Robinson seconds.
Okay, motion and second. Any discussion?
Would it be possible, Steve, I know that she is with us this evening, Carrie, could give us just a 30-second background? Some of us weren't involved in the hiring process, so we don't know much about her. It'd be nice if she could say a few words.
And Carrie, if you would like to say something, certainly will. The board should have received your base resume, but if you would like to, in the board packet, but if you would like to give us just a little more feel than what we might get on paper.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. My name is Carrie Naparella, and I grew up in Princeton. I have been teaching in Ripon for the last 25 years, all in kindergarten. And 8 years ago, about 15 years ago, I was asked to help start our collaborative efforts for our 4-year-old preschool program. And we have community sites, just as Waupaca does. And then 8 years ago, I was asked to help begin planning and implementing our K-2 project-based learning charter school. And Ripon became the first district in the state to have a K-12 PBL charter continuum. And so been working in Journey for the last 7 years. We just finished our 7th year. And we are PBL multi-age with a random acts of kindness, health and wellness, and fine arts focus, 3-year rotation focus. I'm very excited to join Waupaca.
Okay, thank you very much. Megan, did you have anything you'd like to add at this moment before we do vote?
No, just that we're very excited for her to join the team, and we're excited to get moving.
Okay. Very good. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Steve Hackett,
Aye.
Betty Mannion,
Yes.
Pat
Aye.
Mark Culbertson,
Yes.
Sandy Robinson,
Yes.
Dale Felt,
Yes.
Steve Johnson.
Yes. Thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to working with everyone.
Okay, the next item was the Chain Exploration Center annual report.
Megan is going to take this.
Hi, everyone. So we have prepared our annual report this year. It's posted on our website, so anybody can go look at it at any time. I just wanted to kind of revisit some of the highlights from our annual report. So just some things that we moved through it. We gained, we're now a board of 7. So at our last annual meeting in June, we got 2 new members. And so we now will be 7, which will be part of our focus for the following year. And oh, I see the report up, so I'll wait. So the summary just kind of walks through what the report will be about.
we say farewell to Mary Kay Risto as our lead advisor, but she'll be joining us on the governance council. So we're excited for that. The next page shows the governance council and the new members. And we said goodbye to Bob and Lori. So we're so grateful for their service. Let's see. This is our team of advisors from last year. Next year we're expanding. So we had 2 different multi-age groups. We had 2nd and 3rd grade, and then we had 4th through 6th. So you see our advisors working in the community garden there. Just notes of accomplishments. We raised over $22,000, and our students collected over 1,000 hours of community service this year as part of our initiatives of the school. Highlights, so it touches on Project Lead the Way and a lot of what the kids were able to accomplish throughout the year. And then we look at our iReady. So our iReady comparison is done in growth points. So when we looked at the data, the students at the CEC started with higher scores. And so we wanted to take a look at how much growth we achieved compared to the district as well. So these are representative of that. And so when you look at like 6th grade, you notice that our growth points weren't quite as high, but we started higher. So, and so that's what we were able to achieve. We also looked at our different measures that when we start at the beginning to how we end the year. So one of those is our 21st century skills or our success skills. And so at the beginning of the year, we had 88% of kids with growth. And by the end, we had almost all of our students showing increased growth in our 21st century skills. And that's with the rubric that we created with students, governance council, advisors, and administration. And that's also on our website. Some of the other comparison we weren't able to do just because we didn't take iReady in the spring. Our enrollment, the demographics look pretty similar to the district. Our enrollment figures for next year and projections for next year are included in the following paragraph. We looked at retention. We looked at who was the new enrollees. And so just a fun thing to note was 50% of the new enrollees are siblings for next year. Okay, and then our financials. So we're looking at Fund 10. So this is our budget versus actual. So where we spent our funds, and the following was the sub-grant budget versus actual. So for the sub-grant, we projected that we would be spending $190,000 this year. We spent less than half of that due to COVID. Normally, you're not able to carry over 10%, but they waived that due to circumstance. And so all schools were able to carry over whatever funds they hadn't spent. So we will be carrying over $104,000, and that will get rolled into this next year. Our fundraising efforts combined, they total just over $22,000 with donations, grant funds. We signed up for scripts since we're a 501c3, and then just various fundraisers that we did. So it was an impressive collective effort. This is Suzuki, so the students continued to do Suzuki in the string program. This year it was grades 4 through 6, and next year it'll be expanded down to 3rd grade. And then the kids in the upper grades will continue. 7th and 8th grade will be optional. This is a look at some of our electives. So Corey Bowe is did most of our elective classes. So you're looking at makerspace, our physical activity class, some art projects that the students were working on, and then all the kids down by the lake, which is pretty cool. This year, one of our goals was to increase our partnerships and strengthen them. So we did a lot with the Waupaca Community Arts Board. To the left, you're seeing a picture of our prairie planting or a butterfly garden. And so that was in conjunction with Wild Ones. So the central chapter will be active and come out and help our kids identifying the plants, and everything that was planted was native. So that was pretty cool. We also helped some endangered fish. I don't know the species, I'd have to ask, but we worked with UWSP Ichthyology department to do this, and that was really exciting for the kids as well. So part of what we like to teach at the school is community service. And so we did accumulate over 1,000 hours. Below you see some of the opportunities and then pictures of the kids engaging in them. Our professional development, we got over 190 hours above and beyond district time. And to the left, you see some different opportunities. A lot of those are for project-based, or they are works required, so they, or DPI required with the sub-grant. Fun pictures of the kids. There's a school store, there's kids on the trail, our chickens, the kayaks. So kids utilizing the whole property. And then last but not least, we had our annual meeting in June, and that is where we focus on our goals. So we have a continued goal of communication with our community and also with our families. So the goal is to just increase partnerships and continue to educate everyone on project-based learning, and then also about our charter school. For council development, we gain new members, so it's key that we are taking a look at open meeting law and revisiting Robert's rules, and then just diving deeper into how we can be more effective. And of course, academic excellence. So we do things a little differently. So we would like to focus on maybe new methods of collecting data and making sure that our students are successful and that we're measuring it. And that is our report. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I hope I covered everything.
Thank you. Any questions?
And thank you, Mark, for scrolling through.
Okay, apparently you presented extremely well because there are no questions. Thank you, Megan. With that, we will move on then to the annual at-risk report.
That's Lori.
That is me. Good evening, everyone. The annual at-risk report is an action item to approve. The portion of it that requires action is the at-risk plan itself, which is the first page that you'll see. This is a statutory requirement under 118.153 that states what an at-risk student is by definition. Also stating that our at-risk teachers being an at-risk teacher involves a high amount of networking and teaming to support our students throughout our entire school environment. Our middle school students are served in a more inclusive model, and as they transition to high school, it's determined whether or not they need to be fed again into that at-risk program or alternative ed program as they move through 9th through 12th grades. At the high school, our at-risk students are served through monitor study halls, work experience opportunities, credit recovery through either Odyssey-ware or pen and paper information, as well as our GED Option 2 program, which is that general education diploma option 2 that allows students to do kind of a combination of credit attainment as well as comprehensive assessments to meet those graduation requirements. That is the plan in and of itself. The 2019-2020 summary report, again, just begins by talking about that importance of relationships between our at-risk teachers and our students. Some of the regularly provided assistance is listed in that second paragraph, be it one-on-one sessions and discussions, phone calls, supports, consulting with our social workers, student services staff, such as our school counselors, school nurses, and school psychologists, as well as our school resource officers. They have been a great positive resource to our students in our at-risk programming that are dealing with a lot of issues, perhaps in school as well as in that home environment. Parents are notified, as always, by prior written notification of that their child has been identified for that program. We had around 80 students this school year in the 1920 school year. You know, closing down in March through the end of the year, we didn't have as much end of third and fourth quarter data as we have had in the past. And we had over 175 individual Odyssey Wear classes completed, as well as over 35 pen and paper recovery classes. And 15 students participating in work experience, and around a half a dozen students that are completed or are wrapping up that GED option 2. Our at-risk program at the high school also provides services and course tracking for our students that are removed from school due to disciplinary measures.
Okay, thank you. With that, getting back to the at-risk plan, is there a motion?
I move to accept the at-risk plan.
Okay, motion by Mark and second by
Steve?
Second.
By Steve. Roll call. Any discussion? Roll call.
Steve Hackett,
Aye.
Betty Mannion,
Yes.
Pat Fair,
Aye.
Mark Polvinsky,
Aye.
Wendy Robinson,
Yes.
Dale Belt,
Yes.
Steve Johnson.
Yes. Okay, the next item is the
Annual Seclusion and
annual
Restraint
seclusion and
report.
restraint report.
I will take that as well, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you.
This report does not require any board action, but it does require there is a required annual presentation for compliance under Act 125, which shares that we must communicate this data on an annual basis to our school board, listing the number of incidents from the previous year. I think the most important part of this page is just to define what seclusion and restraint is. Seclusion is involuntary confinement of a student. So it's basically if a student is put into a room where they are not allowed to leave. The number of seclusions we have had this year were mainly due to students that were considered having elopement, where they were runners, where they would leave the building, or due to safety, we would work to keep them in a classroom with staff members, etc. And then physical restraint is just that. It is a restriction that immobilizes one's body. We do use Crisis Prevention Institute training of nonviolent crisis intervention. We have 3 trainers within our district, Dana Whittle, Nikki Jondro, and Ivy Rumling. We also have an additional staff member, Eric Seifert from the middle school, who's being trained this year. So we will have 2 teams to provide that training. While this training does provide lessons on safe and non-harmful control and restraint techniques, the biggest part of this training is in regards to de-escalation measures and how to handle more of those challenging behaviors that happen far beyond that physical out of control nature behavior. The next page has a chart that just demonstrates numbers from the past 3 years. I just provided some shading so you could separate those years. We broke this down by school, including our 4-year-old kindergarten, the CEC, WLC, middle school, and high school. And then we also need to break it down by students that are regular education students, as well as students that are identified as a student with a disability or a special ed student. You can see that at the WLC, we had 5 total restraints and 14 total seclusions. Typically, the elementary level is the level where we see the highest number of seclusion and restraint reportings. There was 1 seclusion at the middle school, and there were no reports at our high school.
Okay, thank you. Again, this is information only, no action required. Are there any questions? Very good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, open enrollment applications.
Okay, if you look at our open enrollment document, you'll see Ashley put this together, and I want to commend her on the great job that she did. It paints a picture that I'm going to try to walk us through. So on the top, if you look at the incoming and the outgoing applications, this would be the total open enrollment applications. You can see that we dropped from 190 last year to 171. So that's 19 less for outgoing applications, and I think that's a positive sign for us, something that we should celebrate. Also, if you look right below that, the total open enrollment applications, the new ones went from 91 last year, and actually there was 91 the year before, down to 73. And so I believe that's a good thing. If you look a little bit lower under the summary of new open enrollment applications, you may ask, why was there one denied? And the year before there were 2 denied. That's just because of special ed caseload numbers, and our caseloads were full and we weren't able to accept new students. If you look at the second page, Ashley broke this down for us by grade level over the last 3 years, and you can see the number of open enroll out, the number of open enroll in, and the difference, either positive or negative. From my perspective, the biggest thing that I see there is we've gone from negative 45 going out last year to negative 40 right now, looking at new ones going out this coming year. And remember, students can apply to up to 3 different districts, and we really won't know until the first day of school which one they ended up deciding to attend. The last page also has some interesting data. We're comparing again the last 3 school years, and this shows all of the destination districts, all of the districts that I guess you could say we compete with to a certain degree. A lot of them are virtual. I go down to Iola and I notice that we have a net gain of 10. That's the highest net gain we've had over the last 3 years with Iola. It isn't necessarily that we have more coming in from Iola. There's just less leaving us to Iola, but it's still a net gain. The other thing I notice is with Manawa, we've had 20 a net gain, 11 a net gain, and now it's down to 9 a net gain. I don't know if that means much, but McFarland, a virtual academy, is one of our biggest competitors, and we're at the highest that we've been with a net loss of 19. If you scroll down and look at Tomorrow River, that is our biggest competitor, and we're at the highest, well, I guess not the highest. Last year we had a net loss of 50. This year we're anticipating a possible net loss of 44. Waiwega Fremont, we have the highest net gain for the last 3 years with 20 students as a net gain. And it's, what's really interesting to us is when we look at the virtual schools at the very bottom of this page, you can see we've had our highest jump as far as net loss at 61 students. So the majority of our students that are leaving us are going to either a virtual school or Tomorrow River. It's something we just have to keep an eye on. So this report is something that you vote to accept, to approve the open enrollment numbers as approved and denied as presented.
Okay, is there a motion? Motion by Dale, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Betty. Any discussion?
Ron, I just had a question for the Tomorrow River one. Is that mostly a lot of those kids elementary that we're losing and for their charter school?
Most of them are their charter school, correct, Dale? They have that Montessori over there.
Right.
Other questions or comments?
Steve, this is Sandy. I have a question, and I know that the Tomorrow River School District, part of their charter, they have a virtual charter school as well. Do you have information about how many of the students who are going to Tomorrow River are involved in the virtual school? Within those numbers.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't have that exact number. I didn't ask Ashley to break that down. She could, but we do know that a majority of them are. I just don't know the specific number of how many are.
A majority of the students are enrolled in the virtual school?
In their charter school, that Montessori school?
Oh, the Waldorf school that is actually a face-to-face school, that's where the majority go?
That is correct, Sandy, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions? Okay, we have a motion. Roll call.
Steve Pickett,
Aye.
Betty Mannion,
Yes.
Pat Fair,
Aye.
Mark Polbinski,
Yes.
Sandy Robinson,
Yes.
Dale Belt,
Yes.
Steve Johnson.
Yes. Okay, next item on the agenda is the graduating seniors celebrations report.
And we're going to Mr. Rabowski.
Thank you. Yeah, what we have is just some highlights that I shared from the senior class that's going out there. One of the things I want to make a comment on is that as a principal, I very much appreciate the fact that we have a comprehensive offering for our students. And we have, from the co-curriculars to the academics, we have something to offer most of the interest within our building. The numbers there just reflect the opportunities that they have, and it's a great opportunity for our students to celebrate those accomplishments, and the fact that so many are participating in the different activities that we have. I do want to mention the 93.5% graduation rate at this point does not reflect we have a number of students right now, seniors who are still completing, and we'll be able to add those to that rate as we go through. Approximately 23% earned college credit. 48% of the students had dual credit through both high school, earning high school credit, as well as Fox Valley Tech. 2 students completed their CDL license from Fox Valley Tech. 6 are working on their CNA. 36 students completed their youth apprenticeship program. 42% of our senior class received local scholarships, and 53% of our seniors completed a co-curricular activity. So we're always looking for ways to not only increase these, but expand on those opportunities for our students. And just want to say thank you for the continued support.
Okay, thank you. It is really an FYI, no action required. Are there any questions?
Just one comment, and I've made this before. I got done talk with the Hatherleys the other day that donate some scholarships, substantial scholarships to us. They donate them in 5 different states. And they said that by far, they get thank yous from every one of our students that receive their scholarships every year. It said it's the only ones that they get. So it just shows to show that our teachers and our staff, the staff here is really teaching the kids good manners and just appreciation for those that give the scholarships.
Okay. Other comments, questions? Okay, we will move on then. The next item on the agenda is the traditional graduation ceremony update.
I believe that's me again. So just a little background. We did, through the COVID, we did participate or have our seniors participate in a virtual graduation on May 31st. But when we made that decision, we also made the statement that we're going to have a traditional type graduation on August 9th. And what we did is we developed a plan as outlined right here to host an in-person graduation on the August 9th. We developed this plan. We shared it out with Jed, asked for some feedback. Jed did provide us with some feedback. And we're still working through some of those details. Some of the things that are happening that we would not be able to do would be to have the band or choir participate in the ceremony, just from a simple standpoint of practice and the distancing stuff that we talked with Mark and Anna. So we would look to provide some sort of digital, virtual music from the students, and we would host the event out on Comment Field. A couple of things that we would do is we'd have students on the field social distanced apart. We would have the stage on Comment Field and have the students as they come across the stage there. We would have just the parents as spectators in the stands. Again, we would have the stands marked for our guests to sit and view the ceremony. We're still going through some of those plans as we have it there, as you scroll down. We did send out a survey at the end of June to both students and parents as to indicating their interest in continue to participate in this. I believe attached in here are the results of the survey that we received back from the parents. I don't know, can you scroll down a little further, Mark, and just go past that part? I can't read those, but those were, we sent it to Infinite Campus, the survey. I do have, I think, the numbers with me. No, I don't. Looking for them. 34, this is the students' response. It went out to 174 students. We had 35 responses. Out of those responses, 34 said no, 65 said yes. Can you scroll down? They all wanted to have parents only. That's what they supported, and that was the student. Scroll for a little further. We had 200 and I believe 74 response emails out to parents. If you scroll down a little bit further, out of those, we had 102 responses. 43% said no. 56% of those said that they would participate in there. And again, it was parents only in the response that they did. You can scroll back up, please. And this is the tough part for me, is that as much as I would like for us to go forward and continue to have the in-person ceremony, with our current COVID numbers, cases increasing, and the low interest, my recommendation is that we would not host a in-person graduation ceremony.
Okay, are there questions?
So this is Pat, Mike. So Mike, you're making the recommendation and that the October 9th date simply be canceled. Is that correct? Correct.
Did you say October? That it was August, Pat?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I meant August. I'm sorry. August.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my only comment to that is that we're not the first school to cancel. There were several in the valley that had similar ideas and have canceled open air or gatherings of a similar nature. So we're not inventing the wheel here.
Other questions or comments?
Forgive me for not paying attention to that, but what was the date that survey was sent out?
June 25th, I believe. It says right there.
Okay, so that was a good 3 weeks ago,
Yeah,
and things have certainly changed in 3 weeks,
correct.
sadly. Okay, thank you.
If I could just interject, one of the things that I find the most interesting is 23 of our graduates out of 174 said that they wanted to have this ceremony. That's only 13% of our graduates.
I think the one thing to also keep in mind with this survey, though, is if it was sent through Infinite Campus, which I believe it was, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Waupaca, one school is done. I don't know how many kids actively, and I know we do send text messages out too, but I don't know how many students or parents actively go into Infinite Campus during the summertime. So I'm not sure what response rate.
Just a little anecdotal though, data, Steve, I've talked to a lot of graduates and they said, we discussed how they were recognized this year. And there were so many different types of recognition. The great parade, the banners downtown, the school signs, that the video that was on it, every graduate got to speak for a couple of minutes for the ceremony. I just, they felt that they were honored. They didn't get to go across the stage, but a lot of them told me that they felt that the school did as much as they could, and that the parent group also. And I think they were recognized probably more than walking across the stage.
Well, that's good feedback, Dale. We appreciate hearing that. Thanks.
Thanks, Dale.
Steve, this is Gender. May I also add that when it's an IC blast, it also goes to their emails. So they don't have to go into IC to get the information. It's emailed to them. It can even be text to them also.
Which Steve Tomaszewski also made comment on in the chat area. So I stand corrected. Thank you.
I think this is the first time ever.
Dale does it to me all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions?
Do we have a motion?
We do not.
Are we going to vote on this?
There's not a motion as of yet.
I make a motion that we do not have.
Ceremony in August be canceled.
I'll second.
Motion by Pat, second by Dale. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Steve Hackett,
Aye.
Betty Mannion,
Yes.
Pat Barrett, Mark Polvinsky,
Aye.
Sandy Robinson,
Yes.
Dale Phelps,
Yes.
Steve Johnson.
Yes. However, for the record, I will go on a little bit further to say, if for some reason some parent and student want to have something informal where they're receiving a diploma, we can certainly arrange to have that done. Would that be correct?
I think we could probably do that, Mikey, if they wanted to take a picture with you giving the diploma to them, we could accommodate that, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Next item is the Waupaca High School 2021 School Handbook.
For the sake of time, I'm just going to step in here. I know this is Mike and Joe, and they'll answer any specific questions, but majority of this is starting on page 23. This is new language that Mike put in, and it has been reviewed by legal counsel as well. That goes through page 30. And then Joe did an excellent job working on the creation of a new athletic, or I should say, activity code. That begins on page 38 and ends on page 47. And that has been reviewed by legal counsel as well. Both have been, not only legal counsel, but the core team vetted them, and both Mike and Joe have done an excellent job with this.
Okay, very good, thank you. Everybody has had the opportunity to review this. Are there any questions? There being none, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the student handbook as is.
Motion by Mr. Felt to approve the WHS 2021 school handbook as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hackett. Further discussion?
Steve, I just have one question, and it's really, and I don't know if it's appropriate here, but in the handbook, is there any, and I gotta admit, I didn't read through most of it because, as you say, there was just certain sections, but is there any mention within about the COVID situation in the handbook?
There's nothing that talks specifically to COVID. We're hoping that, or at least I would hope that we would have a special location, either in the website or somewhere, where we have specific stuff just for COVID.
And I think some of that will come out of the task force or the 2021 school plan that's being developed by that task force. Would that be correct, Mr. Sari?
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions? Okay, we've got a motion and second. Roll call.
Steve Hackett,
Aye.
Betty Mannion. Betty Mannion,
Yes, sorry.
Pat Fair, Mark,
Aye.
Pat, did we hear you?
I said aye some time ago.
Okay.
Okay.
Sandy Robinson,
Yes.
Dale Fowl.
Yes.
Steve Johnson.
Yes. Okay, next item on the agenda is the student assessments annual notice.
This is the one notice you've all been waiting for all night to get to, I'm sure.
Pretty much.
I'll keep it brief. This is in alignment with our annual standards notification, which is the next item on the agenda in terms of the assessments that we are providing our students. This falls in line with board policy. However, the motion is to approve board policy due to the fact that some of the assessments have changed. So there's a provided struck through policy in here. I felt that the adjustments were pretty minor. That's why I didn't go through a typical path, just to bring this up to speed with the fact that the students are no longer required by the state of Wisconsin to take the ACT word keys, and that we're no longer using the STAR assessment, but instead we're using the iReady assessment.
Okay, thank you. Someplace. Okay, with that, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the student assessment notice.
Okay, that's a motion to approve the revised board policy 346-R1 annual notice of student assessment. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Betty got in quicker. Okay, any further discussion?
Steve, this is Sandy. I do have a quick question. And it relates to the non-discrimination clause that's at the end of the policy. Are we going to need to be updating that in light of some of the recent Supreme Court decisions?
Yeah, Sandy, that's a good point. That will be coming through with our new Neola update. We're getting pretty close where I'm hoping next month we can have a policy committee meeting and start going through those updates.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, other questions? Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Roll call?
Steve Hackett,
Aye.
Betty Mannion,
Yes.
Pat Fair,
Aye.
Mark Colvin,
Yes.
Sandy Robinson,
Yes.
Dale Bell,
Yes.
Steve Johnson.
Yes. Next item is the student academic standards.
Again, this is an annual notification that just simply lists out the standards that we use in the school district of Waupaca, and provided the attachment this year correctly, I hope, and so you can see what standards we're following. For the most part, it is the Wisconsin Model Academic Standards, and some of those standards, especially in the area of English Language Arts and math, are very much related to the Common Core state standards. However, the Wisconsin Model Academic Standards just came out with their newest and latest version of the ELA, or English Language Arts Standards, just a few days ago, or a few weeks ago, I would say. But other than that, nothing has really changed here. This is, again, just from an informational standpoint where we're getting our standards from, that of course we use to derive our learning targets for our students. And this is, of course, is correlated with the previous one, the student assessments.
So this, with the recent change, this would just be formally following that.
This is an annual
With or
notice.
without changes, just because it's identifying that as one that we are following.
Yep. This is annual notices.
Okay.
We have to do this annually, every July, every district in the state.
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Feld, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Fair. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Steve Hackett,
Aye.
Betty Mannion,
Yes.
Pat Fair,
Aye.
Mark Colvin,
Yes.
Sandy Robinson,
Yes.
Dale Bell,
Yes.
Steve Johnson.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is the 2021 athletic ticket prices.
Yeah, if I could pinch hit for Joe very quickly, this is something that we do annually, and I anticipate this to be what I call a slam dunk. There's nothing controversial. We're just asking for you to approve to keep the ticket prices in the Northeast and Bay Conference the same as the previous year.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion. Second.
Polovitsky, is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Second by Pat Fair, he beat you, Betty. Any questions? Roll call?
Steve Hackett,
Aye.
Betty Mannion,
Yes.
Pat Fair, Mark Polovinsky,
Aye.
Sandy Robinson,
Yes.
Dale Bell,
Yes.
Steve Johnson.
Yes. Okay, next item is the review of the monitoring schedule.
This is an annual item that we have every year. Last year, we did a little bit of a change. Administration recommended some minor adjustments. At this point, administration is not recommending any changes because we're in that strategic planning process, and it is our hope that after the strategic planning process, we'll have a little more focus, and we may want, as a governance board, make some adjustments to this monitoring schedule to better be aligned with the scorecard that we will be creating for our district. But we're open to any feedback or input that anybody may have at this time. We may have some insights that we're not aware of.
Oh,
I do.
Go ahead, Sandy.
Oh, My one thought, Ron, was to take a look at the table of contents and the governance policy manual that the board has, to look at areas that are related to our operations that we would, I think we're, given the model that we work with, those things also are important to monitor, but I agree that the strategic planning process and is an important part of this as well.
Good point, Sandy. Thank you.
And I do think that this may become a little bit more fluid once we find out more about the 2021 school year itself and how that begins to unfold, as well as the strategic planning. So everybody can obviously keep this in mind as we move forward. We do not need any formal adoption at this point in time. Some of these will be placeholders, which in theory might change as we go forward. With that, we move to the consent agenda. As I said at the beginning of the meeting, we will exclude in the consent agenda item B for C.
The whole rest of it, yeah.
Well, we still want 3, A and B.
Yeah, I just meant everything after 4.
So 4 on. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Mr. Feld. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Sandy Robinson. Any discussion? Roll call.
Steve Hackett,
Aye.
Betty Minahan,
Yes.
Pat Bear,
Aye.
Mark Polvinsky,
Yes.
Sandy Robinson,
Yes.
Dale Felt,
Yes.
Steve Johnson.
Yes. And despite what Mark said about the long-awaited item on the agenda, we'll get to the one that others might be waiting for. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Feld. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Betty. Thank you. Any objections? All in favor?